I'd like to reconvene the Washington Unified, I have a cold, school board meeting for June 26th. I'd like to report out of closed session, Government Code Section 54957, Public Discipline and Dismissal Release. Direction was given to support the direction given by the board. Item number 2, Government Code Section 54962, Expulsion Matter number 40251. Direction was given to support the direction given by the board. Item number 3, Government Code Section 54962, Expulsion Matter number 40419. The direction was given to support the direction given by the board as modified. And we'd like to do the Pledge of Allegiance. If we can ask Steve Marsh to lead us in that. We have communications and celebrations. There being none, we have student/association reports, and we don't have a student just yet. So California School, the CSCA report, and Deborah's not here. We have Washington Teachers Association report.
The sun shining of the district. Mayor this week.
Thank you. We're down to public comments, and having none, we have board and superintendent comments and committee updates. Dr. Gillian.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz. This time, I just really want to thank the board for all of your concentration and hard work along with staff as we prepared our LCAP and our adjustment to Common Core and transitions we're going through. This is really kind of a monumental shift, I think, for us in Washington Unified. I'm very, very proud of the work that staff has done with our community involvement as we constructed a plan that I think is really going to take us forward. And I think things have aligned very nicely with the board's strategic priorities, and I just really appreciate very much your support in guiding us and supporting us along the way. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Ms. Mary Leland.
I'm just hoping everybody has a really safe summer, and that both parents and students, you think about your physical health this summer, get some exercise in, and then also exercise your brain. Challenge yourself to read books and to kind of keep that learning going over the summer. So that's my wish for our families in our community.
Thank you. Sarah Kirby Gonzalez.
I had a colleague reach out to me recently who is working with the California Association for the Gifted, and they're having a workshop this week at a Teacher Institute, and reached out to me and said it was really wonderful to see Washington Unified represented there, and the teachers were enthusiastic and just had a lot of really great things to say about the district. So I would like to thank the district again for putting Gifted Ed into the LCAP for funding that so the teachers could go, and I've already heard great things. They're enjoying it and having a good time. So thanks for that, and thank you for the teachers too. While we pay for the training, they often go to them on their own time, unpaid. So thank you for giving up a little bit of your summertime to do that too, and being enthusiastic about it. Also, the Up for West Sac Award, which was just mentioned, I would like to again give a shout out, and I'm sure others will as well, because we have over half of the students that are in preschool come from the district, and what a great thing, and a great recognition for the city and for the district as well. And that is it for me. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Katie Gonzalez.
Villegas. I get your name right yet. Thanks. A few things to report out. The Yolo County School Boards Associations met, and we are planning a training for potential school board members that want to run in November. And it's, so you want to be a school board member, and it's open to all potential school board candidates in Yolo County. And a lot of our partner districts have many seats open. So I believe our two are filled with current people, but in Davis, they have several seats open. Woodland, I think they have at least 4 or 5. So big stuff coming down, and so that should be exciting. I'll bring more information as that comes out. And not only did we win the preschool award, West Sacramento won the Most Livable City Award for under 100,000 people, which is huge for a little tiny West Sacramento. So we're very proud of that as well. And we have 2 events coming up. One is the Yolo County Children's Alliance in partnership with the City of West Sac, and the County Board of Supervisors has a bike safety event on July 25th. And if anybody wants to help with this, it's a way to get some kids free bikes and helmets and locks, and then learn safety as well. And then we also have a fundraiser, Friday al fresco, at our favorite Bogle Winery, and that's coming up. I'll leave these down at the counter down there, but lots of fun stuff happening this summer. And I almost forgot, the Yolo County Fair is coming up, and I'm sure Bill already knows about this, but the Yolo County Fair runs August 13th through 18th? Wednesday through Sunday in Woodland, and we'd like to see a lot of West Sacramento families there, and it's the last free open gate. Lots of good entertainment. Yellow Idol, we always have some great kids from West Sacramento participating in that, so I'd like to invite you all to come to that. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. I, too, would like to congratulate the Up for West Sacramento. What a great opportunity, and being one of the most livable cities. So that was a great thing that happened. I also want to thank all staff and our community for all their work they've been doing with the LCAP. I know it's taken a lot of time and a lot of work, but I know we really appreciate all the information, because we couldn't make our decisions without that information. So thank you very much. And I, too, along with Mary Leland, like to wish everybody especially a safe and sound 4th of July. I know fireworks are now legal here in West Sac for the last couple of years, so just want to make sure everybody that they remain legal and everybody has a safe holiday. At that, I'd like to have there's now on the agenda a public hearing for the Sunshine WTA proposal to Washington Unified School District, and I'd like to open that public hearing. Having no comments, we'll close that public hearing. Now on to information and discussion items. Item number 1, 2014-15 application for funding through the consolidated application. Yeah.
Tonight, Julie, good evening, Vice President Cruz, members of the board, Dr. Gilliland. Tonight, we have just a very brief presentation on the consolidated application process, which is the way that we obtain federal funds that Julie's going to present. And the only reason I'm up here standing before you, because I was going to let Julie do this, is I wanted to say that this is Julie's last board meeting with us unless you want to come and hang out for fun. And so I wanted to remark on that. And also to say that a lot of this work that was, most of the work on this LCAP came from Julie Hoskins. This is really her opus to us, the LCAP, and just want to thank her publicly for that as well.
Thank you. I really appreciate those comments. And you're right, it has been a lot of hard work, and we're really happy that we're bringing it to you for approval tonight. The CONAP is also going to you for approval on the consent agenda, but we thought we'd just have this opportunity to provide a little bit of information because it kind of keeps changing, and then it also gives you the chance to ask any questions you might have. The board is required annually to submit to approve the application for funding that we submit on the consolidated application to the state. It's gotten to be kind of a smaller and smaller application since we no longer apply for state funding through the consolidated application. It now is our application for our federal funds. So this application that we're submitting this year is for Title I, Part A, which supports our at-risk students who need some academic supports. Our Title II, Part A, which is our professional development funding that supports teachers and administrators getting additional professional development opportunities, and our Title III LEP, which supports English learners specifically. So it's our most targeted, most restricted federal dollars. So that's what our application is for. We are required also to talk to our District English Learner Advisory Committee about the application for funds, and so they have seen this, they've heard about what we're applying for and the students and teachers and administrators that will be supported through these funds. We don't have any allocations yet on our federal funds, but we're anticipating through those 3 programs, we'll probably receive about $2 million to the district in support for our programs. The application includes several different submissions. There's actually 19 separate submissions that are part of this spring submission, but the most important ones for kind of the application process are the ones I included, which show our Title I, how we anticipate using our Title I funds, because the Title II and Title III are district-wide funds, but Title I gets allocated out to the schools. And we allocate those funds out to all of our elementary schools and to YOLO. We don't do it at the high school level. Many districts around the state do not fund their high schools with Title I funds, but they do get support for their support classes, their counselors, and all of that through the LCFF funding. We do fund private schools. That's one of the requirements of federal funds, is that we include students, whether they go to our schools, if they live in our district, it doesn't matter if they're attending our schools. If they're attending a private school, we also fund their programs there with Title I funds. So you will see that we have Holy Cross, Our Lady of Grace, and some outside of the district, non-public schools as well, that participate with us in federal programs. So this is an annual application. It comes around every June 30th. It has to be submitted into the state, and so you'll see it on the consent agenda to actually approve that to go forward. Are there any questions at this time about how this process works?
I actually had a quick question, and you brought it up briefly about the Title I, the Part A funds that go to nonprofit private schools. I know we had 3 listed, but from year to year, is there an increase in funds that are going out for our students that are enrolled in those programs? Have we seen a change? And is there a like a dollar amount that we can put on at least funds, the Camellia Waldorf, Holy Cross, and Our Lady of Grace is the one that I'm most concerned about. But I just had a question on that. I know I've seen this every year, but I've never asked if there's been, sort of a shift or changes in numbers on the nonprofit private schools.
Holy Cross is the one that gets the most funding, has participated with us for many, many years, as long as I can remember. They've been a participant in Title I. And so their funding is probably around $10,000 a year, more or less at this point. It's based on an equitable distribution per pupil amount, based on the attendance area where those particular students who generate the funds live. And since we fund our schools differently depending upon their number of students in poverty, it's not an exact one number. If they live in Bridgeway, it's different than if they live at Elkhorn, in the Elkhorn attendance area. So it's hard to give an exact per pupil amount. But It's based on the number of students who are identified for free and reduced lunch who live in our attendance area and are attending the school. So it varies based on their enrollment, but that's approximately what they get in Title I funds. Title II, Our Lady of Grace and Holy Cross both participate, and again, that's based on an equitable share, based on the total enrollment of the district, what percentage they are of that, and our non-public schools are about 1.5% of the total enrollment of the district, so they get the per pupil allocation, which is more for Our Lady of Grace because they have a higher student population, but they get, I think it was this year, about 11,000 at Our Lady of Grace and 5,000 or 6,000 at Holy Cross in Title II funding, so to support professional development. The non-public schools outside of our district, we actually participate in an MOU with Sac City, San Juan, Natomas, Robla, the surrounding districts, because it's very complicated to figure out where all these kids are going and which schools they're at and where they live and do they qualify for free and reduced lunch and all of that. So we work on that together. And those numbers are very small. We have maybe 2 students at one school, 3 students at another, 4 students at another, and so it's never more than a couple of $100s per student for those schools. Well, I think the shift we've seen is that the schools outside of the district have gotten a little more sophisticated in knowing that this funding is available to them and in wanting to participate with us. And so we have more schools saying yes, they want to participate than we've had in the past. So we might have, 4 or 5 schools that say, yes, we have 2 of your students and we want to participate with you. But it's not a lot of funding, hasn't been.
More?
I just had another quick question, because I think most of the kids at Holy Cross currently live in Natomas, actually, and not West Sacramento. So does it matter where if they choose to go to school here, do we get their money, or does Natomas get their money? I'm just curious.
Okay, so if they live in West Sacramento and go to Holy Cross, then the funding follows them, because our Title I funding is based on census data. So those students did generate some of the funding. If they live in Natomas, then Natomas has to work with Holy Cross and fund them. Up until this year, that hadn't really been clear and hadn't been working, but I've worked with the new principal at Holy Cross this year so that she can work with those other districts and start actually tracking back who were the Natomas students, who they could participate with Natomas and receive Title I funding for those students.
Perfect. Great.
Julie, I just want to thank you. We're going to miss seeing your smiling face. And again, you bring a lot of information to us that without that information, it's hard for us to make the decision. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
We are on to action items. Action item number 1, to approve the WUSD Local Control Accountability Plan, the LCAP. Are you going to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion, and I think I can do it for several items under action, to move 1, 3, 4, and 5 to a consent item agenda, if possible.
Do we need a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So we'll go on to action item number 2. Approve the 2014-15 Washington Unified School District budget with a positive certification.
Good evening. I go through a very quick presentation. We were with you guys a couple weeks ago, and we gave you a draft budget. And in the last 2 weeks, there have been a couple of changes that I want to go over with you and make sure that you understand what those changes are. So what you're going to see tonight is the same presentation you saw 2 weeks ago with a couple things inserted into it, and I'll show you what the changes are. I pretty much look at all the changes that we are going to reflect here as being positive changes, so they're all good things. Again, our budget started off with the fundamentals of the budget being the priorities that the Board of Education set for 2014, and that's kind of been the basis for everything we've done, including work that we've done with the LCAP. The 13-14 estimated fund balance shifted. It changed by about $6,000 and went up a little bit, so that's good. When we saw you last time, we had about a $426,000 deficit for 13-14. That's down to $420. It hit our target. We had, coming into this year, about a $870,000 deficit, and we said we wanted to cut it in half by the end of 13-14, have it be completely eliminated by 14-15, so we've met that target. This is a really neat document, just came out, the certified P2. And if you recall, we have said in the past that the tool that we're using to estimate the revenues for the local control funding formula is untested because we did not know what CDE was going to do. And so I put up there a website, which is the P2 certification. You can go and look at this on your own when you're bored and you can't fall asleep at night. It'll put you to sleep really, really fast. But the thing about this is the Department of Education has now said this is how we're going to fund this school district, Washington Unified, for the 2013-14 year, based on their P2 certification. And I make note of two very important points in their calculation versus our calculation, which is the target of $67,344,000. Ours was $67,378,000, so our target was off by $30,000. And the funding, which is the bottom line money that we're going to get, theirs is $47,728. Ours is $47,706. Ours was $47,675. So we're off again by $35,000. Superintendent and I did some math on that, and it's like 1/100% that we were off in our calculation. So very happy with the work that Kylie and her group have done in fiscal services, managing a spreadsheet that has a whole bunch of different variables that she puts in there to make these numbers in the first place. And so she's dead on target with what the state is doing. So we're very pleased about the work that her and her team have done. The major parts of the 14-15 budget, same as they were last time, two significant changes. The gap funding percentage increased by 1.51% to 29.56. It was 28.05. And the STRS contribution that we brought to you last time was an increase of, and it was going to cost us about $375,000 or $370,000. The budget that the legislature put forward and the governor signed cut that for this year by 50%. We all say, great, it gives you a year to breathe, but at the end of the day, that 8 or 10 year period that they were going to have ramped up the employer contribution for STRS, the top number is still the same. So we're going to be playing catch up over the next couple of years. So this was a breather year because it was so late in the budgetary process, but eventually we'll be paying that full amount and then some in the future years. The other items that we brought to you 2 weeks ago remain the same. So target for us, 67,954. I'm on to 14-15, not 13-14. It changes a little bit because it got a COLA of 0.86% on the target. Our entitlement, 53,363. That number right there is going to change for you. We'll come back at the 45-day revise because we just got the numbers last week, and we didn't want to start messing around with them and changing the budget and a whole bunch of stuff in between 2 weeks ago and now. So we'll go in at the 45-day revise. We'll change that 28.05 to the 29.56, and you can do the math yourself really quick. If you change the factor and apply it, it's going to increase revenue by about $310,000. So that's a good thing. LCAP spending, what you saw 2 weeks ago is that exact same thing that is in the LCAP plan is the exact same thing that is in the budget. So we went through our process that you guys are well aware of to come up with the different parts and components to develop the LCAP and fund them in the budget. So that stayed the same. The 14-15 3-year plan shifted a little bit. The fund balance is a little bit different, and it's because we updated what was going on the restricted side more than anything else. If you were to look at this compared to what you saw before, the restricted fund balance, we tightened up some of the projections for expenditures and revenues. It was actually showing a negative number because by resource accounting, it looks at revenues and expenses coming in by pots, and so we had to go through and fix those pots. And that changed some of the funding that you see on the restricted side. The unrestricted side stays about the same. It grew a couple $100,000, and that's because we tightened up things as we were going through and closing the books for 13-14. Overall, balanced 2-year out projection. We're continue to be conservative. 50% of what the Department of Finance currently says they're going to fund the target at. We assume 50% of that in our multi-year projection. If it's more than that in future years, that's fantastic. One thing to note here, if you were to take this multi-year projection and compare it to the multi-year projection that is in the narrative of the budget on page 14 of the budget document, they're not the same. I missed the chart, didn't update the chart. The SACS documents follow this funding mechanism. I just didn't catch the chart on the narrative, that 18-page document at the front end of the budget. So if you were to look at the two, they're not the same. It's because I didn't update the chart. What you have here and what you have in the SACS documents is accurate. Fund 12, we have talked about Fund 12 in years past, and currently, if you were to go through this budget, you'd see that Fund 12 ends up with a unbalanced fund. It's $98,000 for a deficit, and again, by resource accounting, the fund would fall out of balance, and we'd have to make a contribution to the fund because it actually ends with a negative fund balance. So in the narrative, you have this statement here which says, this fund is off by about $98,940. The budget does not take into consideration the changes that happened when the legislature moved the budget forward to the governor. Those changes are listed here. It increased slots. It increased the reimbursement rate by 5%. It got rid of the requirement for families to make a contribution, which means you can have more people into the system. We think those things will be enough to have enough of an impact. We'll continue to work with the administration of the program so that we can have a balanced budget by the end of the year for that program. But we have to go with the numbers that we have now as we go forward with the budget, 45-day revise. We'll fix the revenues. I don't think that's going to fix all the problem. We're going to have to manage that fund over the next year to make sure it's a balanced fund. If for some reason that can't be a balanced fund because of the mechanics of how that fund is put together and the way we do our pay raises with our collective bargaining units versus the way the state increases funding for that program, then down the road we're going to have to look at the long-term fiscal solvency of Fund 12. And when we're doing that, then we'll come to you with some different recommendations and options that the board has, and you can either approve or deny some of those things, including an ongoing contribution to that fund if that fund can't be self-sustaining. At this point, we think we'll be okay for 14-15, but as we go out into future years and we look at how things are working in the employee marketplace versus the way the state actually is funding this program, we think we're going to have some conversations about how we make sure that program stays afloat. So the next steps for the 14-15 budget are the budget that you have is in adoption format. It's ready to go. It's a fiscally solvent budget. It meets the AB 1200 requirements for positive certification, which we are asking you to provide for us tonight. And then we'll be back August 14th with a 45-day revise because there's enough changes that I saw that I'd like to bring it back to you so that you guys have a clear picture at the beginning of the year, and then we'll continue to update you through the interim report process. Any questions, comments?
Scott, I just want to compliment you, and I want to compliment all of Cabinet for the great work you've done over the years to keep our budget on solid ground, and we have a good foundation to really be able to look at things much more flexible. I did want to do a shout out on the issue that you brought up with Fund 12 and the new decision by Governor Brown. That was amazing that he has funded $264 million. It's the biggest investment in early learning and child development in over a decade. And we really need to celebrate that because, as our board member, Sarah Kirby-Gonzalez, serving on up for West Sac and all of our involvement along the years, West Sac is so positioned, and with the first 5 commission, I just think this is such exciting news. And I know you'll come back with those numbers, and hopefully that will help us with the deficit in that account. But I just really wanted to kind of make a public statement and applaud what the governor did on early learning, because we know students, all children need that early start to really succeed, and I think he acknowledged that. And $264 million is quite a commitment by the state for early childhood, and West Sac will certainly get a part of that. And again, just to compliment you on the positive certification, and looking forward to the revise with the numbers that we're hearing about.
I have a quick question. I heard something in actually my board meeting the other day about free and reduced lunch at certain schools. If a certain percentage qualify for free and reduced lunch, that the whole school would automatically get free lunches. Do you know anything about that?
I've heard about that, and we are nowhere near that percentage.
Even at Westfield and
No.
River City has?
I think our highest free and reduced school is actually Riverbank. It's not Westfield.
Not Westfield, really?
And district-wide, we're below 70%.
So what rate do you need to be at to get free?
I'd have to go and get the specific number, but I believe it's in the 80 percentile.
Wow.
It's a very high number.
And does it go district-wide or does it go school by
I
school?
do not know. I'd have to find out. But I could get that information
That
for you.
would be great.
Okay.
Thanks. Good job, Scott. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I'd like to thank you, Scott, and I'd also like to thank Kylie, who's in the back and comes for all your work as well.
We know it's really her.
It is her.
Also, I would like to say, next to your budget document, one of my favorite documents is the board's priorities for 2014 that we all got together, and I like to see on our agendas how we're collating everything to the priorities. And I know no one likes discussing the budget or finances, but somehow I have to say, Scott, when you bring it, it's exciting to me. I don't know why, but maybe it's the way you deliver it. But it is a good thing that, especially last year, we were able to bring back some programs that we weren't able to do, and that's thanks to the balancing of the budget and having the extra money that we can do things, especially VAPA and so forth. So I do thank you, transportation, definitely transportation. Thank you and your support team for everything you do. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to approve the 2014-15 district budget with the positive certification?
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Action item number 6, to approve the Board of Education Resolution number 1413-25 and 1413-26 for the wireless telecommunication installation and construction services project.
This particular resolution is broken into two parts. I'm going to let Scott explain it for us. There's part that goes to the actual equipment, and the other part is for the labor. And for the purposes of the funding, we're going to do two separate resolutions. Scott?
So what you have in front of you, we went out to market for a wireless contractor to do wireless across the district, which was one of our goals for this year. That RFP went out and we got bids back for it a couple weeks back. We actually only received one bid. We had 4 bidders go through the job walk. They dropped off at the very end. We actually got a decline to bid from a couple of bidders. And as we were looking at that, and we were looking at different contracting mechanisms, it made sense to us to break this into 2 different contracts. One is completely for the equipment purchase, and that's $606,764. We're going to do it through what is known as a WSCA contract. It's the Western States Contract Alliance. And it is a piggyback contract, and that's why you have a board resolution acknowledging that the piggyback contract gives us the best buy. And then the second part of it, since we split this into 2 different pieces, is to use a lease-back mechanism, which we have used before, for the construction and the installation of the horizontal cabling itself. And that contract is for $307,889, and that's going to be with NMC. NMC is the firm that put in the bid. They were using the equipment that we wanted, but we went ahead and decided the piggyback was going to be the best buy for us. By doing that, the contract, or the bid price, went down a little bit because we got some minor cost savings by going through the WSCA contract. It's under our original budget that we had as a placeholder. This contract is $914,663, so it's about $85,000 less than what we were originally expecting. And we're looking forward to kicking the project off. A representative from NMC is here tonight if you had any questions for him or his firm. We're very familiar with the work that they've done. They won the bid when they bid similar project at Riverbank when we did the modernization 2 years ago. And just recently, they re-pulled all the horizontal cabling for the Westmore Oaks re-roofing project. So we have a history with them. We're comfortable with their work. And we think that these 2 resolutions are going to get us to where we want to go and have wireless across the district by, I believe our target for everything is the fall of 2015, so a little over a year.
Is there any questions, comments?
I have a question. It's a big job, make a lot of money. Why would people decline to bid?
Part of it has to do with if you were to go and look at the RFP, we had some very, very specific equipment requirements and the way the system was going to be put together. And so if somebody isn't certified in doing that particular piece of equipment, they're not going to be able to bid on that project. So they have to be certified. It's like Cisco certification for some of the network stuff in the background. And other contractors, as they're going through, as far as why they may not want to bid, is depending on what type of contractor they are, they're going to need to develop a partnership to meet the contracting requirements that were in the RFP document. This is not a contract where just a general contractor is going to be able to pick this up and perform the work. So specifically why somebody may not have bid, we'd have to ask them. We did get from them a decline to bid. One of them was because of a partnership issue, and the other decline, I'm not sure. And the fourth party that walked the job, and I think we just didn't hear from them, if I have my information correct.
Do you know if our requirements are much different than surrounding districts who are also going wireless?
You know, I'd have to look into that and talk to Tom about it, but I know the requirements that we had in our RFP were based on what our network infrastructure does now and where we see it going and following the tablet initiative that the board has asked us, and we're ultimately trying to get out of the wireless network, which is down the road this one-on-one tablet initiative. So we built the backbone of it, which is the first thing that you're going to do with this wireless to be able to support that long-term initiative versus just putting something out right now so that you can hook up, you know, a percentage of the devices. This is being built so that you can reach that goal, and I believe in the tech plan it's 3 to 5 years was the one-to-one initiative. So we're building the wireless system to handle that.
Yay. Wow, this is exciting. That's great. Very forward thinking, and I think it will help our students, so thanks for working hard on it.
And I also think we heard the public in our last board meeting, one of the parents that was on the LCAP planning, and that was a big concern that he brought up, was the infrastructure. And as we really want to move forward with the technology plan and the tablet initiative, this is a must. And to save $85,000, I don't think that's a little amount. That's a good deal. And so, yeah, I think this is wonderful that it's getting done and not too soon. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a roll call vote on the, to approve the Board of Education, the resolution for the wireless telecommunications. Board Member Mary Lynn?
You have to get a motion.
A
in
motion
second.
first, before, and then roll call? Oh, I'm sorry. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve resolution 1314-25.
And I'll second.
I'm sorry, Mary. What was the resolution number? I want to make sure we're on number 6, right?
1314-25.
I have 1413.
Dyslexia.
I just want to make sure we're on the same resolution. Number 6.
I think the numbers are interchanged twice on the board packet. Because the
Okay.
actual resolution is,
It's 1314.
the actual resolution number is 1314-25. I just think the numbers were,
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the board resolutions are 131425 and 131426. So what is on the write-up is transposed.
Okay.
So I think you go with the actual resolution numbers. 131425, 131426.
Okay. Thank you. I just
Okay.
didn't want to make sure
Nope.
make sure we are all on the same page.
The transposition and dyslexia is over here, so.
Oh.
Okay. So Mary, you made the motion.
I made the motion.
I'll second.
Then this is a roll call vote. So Board Member Ms. Leland,
Aye.
Board Member Kirby Gonzalez,
Aye.
Board Member Villegas,
Aye.
and I too vote aye. It's 4 ayes, 0 nays. We're on action item number 7, to adopt the resolution, if this is the right number, 1314-23, approving CCTR 4320 and CSPP contracts with the California Department of Education.
This is an annual award for our early childhood education program, and it would provide about $1.14 million for the 2014-15 year for students that are, or children that are ages 2 to 5.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved?
Second?
This too is a roll call vote. Board Member Leland,
Aye.
Board Member Kirby Gonzalez,
Aye.
Board Member Villegas.
Aye.
I too vote aye. That's 4 ayes, 0 nays. Action item number 8, adopt resolution 1314-24, authorizing a general obligation bonds ballot initiative for November 2014.
The board was well aware that this was coming to you this evening, and I'm pleased that we're at this particular juncture. Based on a couple of things I just want to make mention of, in light of the fact that we have one board member missing this evening, we wanted to make sure we had our count correct. So I want to let the board know that based on this particular action in moving forward for a bond initiative to the voters would require 66% of the voting body of the board, with all people included. Either way, with or without the 5th member, that would require a vote of 4 members to move this forward this evening. We also have our bond counsel, Mr. Brian Quint, in the audience here. And Stacy, you've met before with Government Financial Strategy, so if there are any logistical questions, they stand ready to assist the board in moving forward. Thank you.
Is there any discussion by the board?
Well, I can go, if you want to go down the line. I have been very anxious to see this on the agenda and to really make some very important decision for this district as we move forward for the future. It's not an easy decision because we're making this on behalf of our community, and we want to make sure that the community is well aware of the needs. But I think as a trustee, I really know that we have to put the safety of our children first. And I think there are a lot of needs that we have both in our safety systems, our kitchen equipment, our fire safety. I think that we also need to pay attention to areas on our school sites that have not complied with the American Disability Act, or that we need to be in compliance and are moving in that direction. And so those are some underlying things, and that's what we heard vetted through the survey, that the community is willing to support this bond, and that safety was very, very much highly rated on their list. But in addition, you know, we're not going to be able to really provide the career and the technology, career and college readiness if our facilities aren't up to date. And I just feel that, you know, whether it's roof maintenance or dealing with heating and ventilation, things that every school district across the state is dealing with, if these aren't taken care of, we're going to sabotage all of these wonderful programs that we have built a momentum in establishing. And so I am just excited. I want to listen to the community. I want to trust the surveys. I want to see an equitable and visionary campaign to carry this out, and I don't want to just put it on a back burner and let someone else decide further down the road that we should do this when things are even in a worse state. And so I'm ready to make that decision tonight, and would encourage my fellow members to join me.
Comment?
I admit that I was on the fence, wondering if this was the right time. I'd been going back and forth and spent a lot of time doing my homework, as I know we all have up here, poring over the surveys, talking to all the parents at the park. There wasn't one parent at the park who did not want to vote on this. Teachers at the schools that I've been visiting, staff at the schools I've been visiting, all told me the need. People were quick to pull down their posters and show me how behind the poster, the wall's falling apart. So I think we're doing our best as a district. We've done some good things with our financials, but the nature of living in a state that's been at the bottom of funding for years on end is that you're going to have facilities that you need to fix. So I feel like poring over all those documents, talking to other cities that have decided to go through with the bond in their own cities, talking to people who've decided not to go forward with bonds in their cities, I think that this is the time, and I'm ready. But I also think that we need to have a very carefully thought out plan. We need to be very open with what we want to do. We need it up on the website, we need to share it, and we need to have a strong oversight committee made up of people who are not just there for name recognition, but who are truly invested in our community and really want to help watch this and make sure that we do our due diligence. And I think it's also important to remember that the bond will not fix everything. If it goes forward and people vote for it, it's about a fourth of our need, I think, that's been identified. So it's not going to come forward and give everybody everything that they want, but I think that we need it to fix some of these things and to give safety. Absolutely. I also think that in West Sacramento right now, people are feeling good. They're excited. There's some great things happening all around here. Things are being built. I think that we can build on that momentum, and who knows what's going to happen in 2 years, and who knows where people will be. So that's where I stand, and I know that Ms. Villegas has helped do the high school bond, and I know Ms. Leland was here in 2007 and knows what we can do to work upon what happened in 2007 and how we can do a better job. So I'm ready.
Ms. Villegas? This makes me a little nervous because I do know how much work it is. It's a ton of work, and I did work on the high school bond. I literally ran that high school bond the day-to-day from my garage. So I met with the parents, I worked with the school district. It's a ton of work, but I do think it's needed, and I think we're at a time now, where we need to make some investments, especially on the north side of town, in our old aging schools. And so I totally agree with all the statements that have been said. And I do support this. It does make me a tiny bit nervous, just because it's a big row to hoe. And, but I do think timing could be crucial at this point. And in our sister cities throughout the county, Winters passed a school bond 70%, and that was just amazing. And they did some much needed work. They're doing some much needed work there. So I hope we can build on that success. Thanks.
Well, first, I would like to take the time to thank everybody, especially I was glad that I was part of the survey process, helping go over the survey questions. And I, too, have talked to the community. I've talked to people that participated in the community groups. And I fully understand all the improvements that are needed in our school. And I concur that these improvements are needed at this time. But as Ms. Kirby Gonzalez says, even if we got a bond, it's not going to cover everything we need. Items will still get repaired, maybe a little bit tougher since we don't have all the money that from a bond that would bring us. I personally will probably be the bad seed here, but I don't feel this is the right time for a bond. And I think we could do a little bit more planning. And I think next year in November would be we'll have more voters that will turn out, and that's my position on it, but I'm ready to vote.
Can we have a discussion, though, and have a back and forth? Because I think, I agree, timing isn't ideal for running a good campaign. We want to be very transparent to the community. We want the community to know exactly what these funds are going to go for, and have that kind of accountability. But I would just urge you, Vice President Cruz, to maybe we can answer a question about why next year would be better than this year. Is there something that, other information that we might be able to give you? Because I know this has to be a 4-0 vote, and I know that on our records as board members, we want to people pay attention probably more to this vote than any other vote that we're going to have. So I'm just asking, is there something that, some piece of information or other, because we're up here to discuss, and you can also vote the way you want to vote, but I also want to be helpful. I want my fellow members also have been out in the community, have been involved in the community just like you. I could just urge you to make this a back and forth kind of discussion.
It wouldn't be next year, it would be 2 years.
Yeah,
2
and
years from
that's
now in
something to
a general
clarify.
election.
Okay.
And even if
Presidential.
staff wants to join in why you couldn't do it next year, it would have to be 2 years. It would be during
Presidential election.
presidential election. And that's a great time. But can our district wait 2 more years? When you're saying we know the bond isn't even going to take care of the needs that we have, we're gonna have that many more needs in 2 years. So I'm just really, it's probably easier not to make a decision, but I wanna make hard choices for kids as a board member. And I've been doing this many years, and I just think this is a hard choice. It's not a clear cut, but I think our families and our town, and most of all, our kids deserve for us to say we can do this, and then let them tell us whether they want it or not. But at least give them an opportunity, like we're hearing out in the community, give them an opportunity to vote, not be afraid of that. Put it out there. Then let them tell us what they want. They have a vote, and I'm willing to work hard on the campaign. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. And I respect your opinion, Board Member Cruz, and I know that your intentions are just as good as all of ours, but I just wanna say that I think now is the right time.
Point of clarification, do we have to vote on this tonight? Is it a deadline that we're up against?
It's really rather complicated, and that's why we've asked for some help this evening. So if you're interested in considering an option, I would call upon Mr. Quint maybe to speak to that. Thank you, Brian.
Hi, good evening. We've been in touch with the county, and the county has established some strict time guidelines for getting the matter before them. So it actually must be adopted either, if not tonight, the latest it could go would be the 8th of July. So there really is some significant importance to getting this done right away. These are deadlines that have been imposed by the county elections people. So really, if it would be either tonight or a special meeting between now and July 8th, but we really don't have any other time other than that.
And I would argue again that we can just put it out there. We make our case, we put it out there, and I agree, we let the community decide. So in reality, we're not making the tough choice, they are. We're putting it on them, and we do have to do work to get out there and share the message of why we need this. But I don't think we can go wrong if we put it out there, give it to them, have them make the decision. The worst that can happen is we end up right where we are right now, if it doesn't go, in my opinion. That would be my argument. And I also think, I'll say one last thing. It reminds me of when I was thinking about having a second child. You know, when's the right time? Are there going to be the finances? Are you going to have this? And I started to realize that as I was looking for the perfect time for a bond, which is when I was on the fence, I just wasn't sure. And somebody talked to me and said, there's not really going to be a perfect time. There might be high turnout, but who knows what else is going to be on the bond, you know, on the ballot measures that November. So I really started to equate it to, personal life and just realize that there's not always a right time, and you just have to sometimes put it out there. And that's where I am in terms of letting the community decide.
Do you want me to go again?
No. I'm
No,
just asking if you
I
have anything
actually
more.
think they bring up excellent points, and our decision is the easy one. We get to decide. The voters really, to put it on the ballot or not, the voters really get to decide whether they can afford $60 per 100,000 for their property assessments. So, I think that is an important point That's a good clarification. And, it's unfortunate that Adam's not here. I don't know which way he would go on that, but I just think that this could be an important time. And I think Mary's correct. Everybody's looking at what we're going to do with this one, so it's a big decision for us.
Well, I appreciate all the comments and the conversation that is happening. Just as well as everyone else has really done a lot of work and research on this. I have too. I know what the survey says. But I talked to people that participated in groups. I talked to a lot in the community and actually some of our city officials. I kind of agree with them that what scares me is the list of items that is, that says the bond will help cover. I think it's voluminous. I don't think it's specific. I do know these repairs are needed. I don't want to make this a quick bond, a quick decision, and we are making a decision to put it on the ballot. If you want to, I would motion for a special board meeting if you'd like to consider it more, and we can have some more discussion about it. I know we have to make a decision, but if we make a decision tonight, I kind of stand where I stand.
And I completely respect you. Can I ask one more question, though, of our folks that are here? Can I ask where other districts who've decided to go forward with the bond, where do they stand? Where are we in line with them in terms of our CIP plan? And our community meetings we've done, where do we stand when we look at other places and what they have done who are ready to go forward? Can we have someone answer that?
Hi, good evening. Could you just clarify what you mean by where you stand? Is it from a financial perspective, like how big is the bond or the
In
tax
terms
rate?
of work to do, in terms of the list, in terms of the vision and where we are in that regard, and messaging and that type of thing.
I'll talk about the needs versus what you can get first. I think maybe Katie, you said that it was about what you can get is maybe a quarter of your needs. I see school districts that I've been working with around California, anywhere from 10% of their needs is what they can get with a bond, up to 25 or 40%. It's not a huge amount. It's based on assessed value, which is not a very good proxy for facilities needs, but that's what the state of California currently uses. So you're kind of in alignment with other districts there. As far as your messaging, I feel like the work the district has done with the survey, the community input team, the financial planning. I know the first time we presented in front of you was November of last year. I know that we have presented to school districts in June, considering bonds in November for the first time. So you have spent a lot of time. I don't know if there's anything else you want me to address.
If I may, Stacy, in terms of what we've prepared and what the board has received for their consideration this evening, I've heard Vice President Cruz speak to the voluminous, the nature of the list that we've addressed. I think we reflected in the resolution language that we would not be able to do everything listed. We've tried to explain, or I've tried to explain that we want to make sure we have a comprehensive list so we have some room to make decisions later. But at the same time, could you talk us through maybe the next steps in terms of what we would do between now and the time the ballot would actually be issued to maybe clarify or provide more detail for the actual work?
I was just checking to see, Brian, I don't know if you want to speak to there's obviously the district resources cannot be used on anything but public information. So I don't know if you want to frame that first and then I could talk about the list.
Well, if the board approves the resolution to put the item on the ballot in November, well, then the community then will be stepping in to provide whatever support and education it is for the voters. It would then be up to the voters to decide whether or not they wanted to go forward. And just one clarification, the current plan is it would add $39 per 100,000 on each parcel, not $50. And that's the indication that would be provided to the voters. And if it gets on the ballot, they would have the decision. They would have the decision to make as to whether or not they want to add that burden to themselves in exchange for getting the projects that are on the list. The list is intended to be, there's always a fine line between being so specific and being too general, so that we want the voters to know what they're voting for, but on the other hand, we don't want to strap you in and say, well, if it turns out that there's something else that has a higher priority for financing, you want that flexibility, and that's why the project list's a little more inclusive than exclusive, and we've added more than less, so that gives you some ability to decide when time comes exactly how the money's going to be spent. And of course, there'd be a citizens oversight committee to oversight your decisions, and all of that, all of the decisions of what will be spent will be part of the decision-making process of the board. Again, if it's not provided to the voters to vote on it, well, it all becomes moot.
One more comment about the project list. I think this project list describes modernization projects, and there are many little things that go into that. And I know the capital investment program talked about all the modernization and the ADA accessibility and the code compliance and those items, the safety, security, so that's incorporated here, and I think it feels long in part because it covers each of those aspects.
Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to say, you know, again, I know even with the laundry list that we have, and that would be clarified during a campaign or prioritized in some way, and that it wouldn't fulfill all of the needs. But my experience in working with the Los Rios Community College District the last 13 years, during that time, we passed 2 successful bond measures. And if you look at your statements, you'll see that Los Rios bond in your own tax. But I think that passing a bond, and again, we could have done a better job with that first one with the high school. I think there were things that came up, and it was the first big bond that came through for the school. And so hopefully, once this bond is passed, that gives you so much leverage. When we passed Measure A in Los Rios, then we turned around and we passed Measure M, which was $475 million, because we have a chance not to just pass a bond. That's not the end of it. We have a chance to provide some real accountability and transparency in doing this thing right. After the bond is passed, what we're going to do, how we're going to engage our oversight committee in the best way possible, so that the community, we can go back again. And I don't think we've been able to have that track record. And so I'm not so concerned about defining this list. I'm just concerned about not positioning ourselves now for that next bond and that next bond. And we have to start somewhere. And so again, I don't know if that clarifies anything, you know, different, but I know that one bond will leverage you for another bond if you do it right. And if you not doing it, and that's not just about campaigning for the bond. I want to emphasize that's what you do, that's how you report it out, and how transparent you are to the community when you're spending that money. And we have a chance to do that part right. But we can't do any of that, and we can't make any of these movements forward in our career and technical education program, in our visual and performing arts. We're going to be stagnant with a general fund that is not going to support those programs. And so again, I would just want to say, let's be brave, and then let's let the public have an opportunity to be courageous and step up and be brave and pass it. But we have to start with that first step of bravery to say we can do this. We can do this.
I was just going to add, this isn't the sexy bond. This isn't a brand-new high school. This isn't
Right.
anything like that. This is like Measure R that was before Measure Q that did technology upgrades and, oh my God, the schools were in horrible repair back then. And, you know, this is the important stuff, the basics that need to be in place before we can get our culinary academy and all of our cool stuff that we're doing, expand our construction academy, and we're gonna need some facilities improvements. Have you been to Bright lately? It's horrible, and it needs some serious work there. I can say that firsthand. But, you know, I think, and at Westfield and at the schools, and the whole safety issue, I know you and I have talked about this with the whole FBI Academy, and Scott and I have talked about this. Our schools were not built for the safety that they need, and I think many of our teachers have reflected that in their biggest concern in the district was to feel safe at school. So I think these are all kind of important things that this can't happen without something like this happening first. And it's a first step, and I do think it is. I totally agree with Mary. It's how we handle this one is going to be reflective of future bond funding. And I think if we wait, the problem's just going to get worse. Construction costs are just going to go up, and it's going to be an even more difficult situation to work with.
Again, thank you for all the convincing and all the input, and to the people in the audience that come up and give us more information. I am part of a board, and I know this is important to our community. It is very important to me to get these upgrades. When you get a feeling in your gut that says there's something that it's just not something you want to go for, that is the feeling I have right now. But because I'm part of a board, you guys are fairly convincing.
Awesome.
Fairly. I do want to bring out an item on the resolution that I would like a modification if possible. And that's on page 5, on section 10, the further authorization, where it says the members of this board, the superintendent, and all other officers of the district are hereby authorized and directed. I have problems with those words, authorized and directed, individually and collectively to do any and all things that are deemed necessary or advisable in order to effectuate the purpose of this resolution. I don't personally think I should have to be directed to do any and all things necessary. Like I said, I have my gut feeling. I still do have my decision and my choice that I really do not want to go forward with the bond, but because I feel like I'm part of a team and I do know the district needs this, if we can make an amendment to that, I think we can all move on.
And we can.
Okay. So could we move and make the motion to adopt the resolution as amended? And we'll make sure culinary gets first on the list.
Okay.
No, I didn't say that.
Let me just suggest that prior to voting, that it's just to delete the words "and directed" from section 10.
Thank you.
I'd like to move that we adopt resolution number 1314-24, authorizing a general obligation bonds ballot initiative for November 2014 with a correction or amendment of removing "and directed."
I'll second that.
This too is a roll call vote. Board Member Leland,
Aye.
Board Member Kirby Gonzalez,
Aye.
Board Member Villegas.
Aye.
I too vote aye. Four ayes and no nays. That brings us to the consent items. Can I have a motion on the consent items?
So moved?
I'll second.
Those in
Oh,
favor?
where am I? All those in favors?
Ta-da.
Aye.
Aye. Is there any future board agenda items?
Oh, yes. I have one. Over at Stonegate Elementary, they are making some great headway with a school garden, and they would like to do a very short, they said 3-minute presentation. So I would like to see at some point between now and maybe the start of school, if we could do our August, to hear from Stonegate PTO, as well as Stacy Grow is her name, how appropriate, about their school garden project.
Anything else? Can I have a motion for adjournment?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Good job.